This is a show, ha-cha-cha, with no particular niche, baby. It's always about hanging out. Maybe we'll laugh at some stuff, maybe we'll learn something new, but it's always about hanging out, me and you. Hi, hello, and welcome to That Thing with James, a podcast about nothing in particular. I'm your host, James, and it's good to be back, I guess. I want to keep playing Dragon's Dogma 2. I've been playing it. It's one of those games where, before you know it, hours have passed and you've still not done a whole lot in the game. Not to say that you're particularly bored, it's just, well, there's an intentional lack of fast travel in the game, which is cool, but I'm in a stretch where I'm kind of like, all right, let's get this thing moving. Come on, let's get it going. But I'm still playing it. There's still enough to keep me engaged, and well, that's what I'm thinking about right now. So, but here I am doing the podcast because I feel like doing it. My heart has led me here, and if I don't follow my heart, then I'm lost. I'm a lost babe in the woods. Anyway, today we're going to talk about BBL. I'm getting a BBL. But first, a little bit of business. If you want access to the 90 plus, let's see, I'm again. Yeah. So this week, bonus episode 94 is coming out. So if you want access to the 90 plus bonus episodes, you can get access to them by supporting this show at patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. Oh, that's right. patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. $5 minimum entry gets you 30 days of access to all 90 plus bonus episodes. And there are other tiers with other perks available, but the biggest perk of all is the peace of mind and the access through the pearly gates after you die by helping to support an independent creator, an independent artiste like myself, by supporting this podcast at patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. The link is written in the episode description, so you don't have to remember it all. Also, my socials, show email, subreddit, those handles and links are also written in this episode's description. I left the central heating system on, so I'm going to be right back. I got to turn that off so I don't catch some droning in the background. Just a second. Yes. Right now, at the time of this recording, it is currently, this is not the day that it comes out. This is the day that I'm recording this right now. Currently, it is Sunday, April 21st, 2024 at 9:55 a.m. Central Time Zone. Excuse me, which means yesterday was 420, and one of my favorite holidays. And to celebrate for it, I got a movie. This is unrelated to today's topic. I'm just catching you up to speed, whether you are curious or not. A few weeks ago, as of now, I placed an order for a DVD, not a Blu-ray, just a regular DVD of a movie I had not seen since, I would say, the beginning of junior high at the latest. I used to see it on TV, and the studio that made it or released it, distributed this movie, it doesn't exist anymore. Hollywood Pictures, I think, is what it is. I think it's the Sphinx, maybe, perhaps. The Sphinx was their logo. It was one of those production distributor, film distribution corporations that dissolved about 10 or 15 years ago. I remember hearing something about like half of the studios and distributors in Hollywood got busted for being cocaine rackets. And of course, money laundering schemes. They're all money laundering schemes. Regardless, this movie I had fond memories of, and I had remembered it. I couldn't find it streaming anywhere. And when I first searched for it months ago, I couldn't even find it on DVD except way overpriced on eBay. And I believe it was kind of suppressed on, regular online purchasing channels because the newer Mario movie had come out. But the movie I'm talking about is the Super Mario Brothers with John Leguizamo and that other dude from I think it was 1993, something like that. I remember the movie being wacky as hell. I remember I liked it a lot when I was a kid. So I went searching for it a few weeks ago from now. And lo and behold, the DVD was now available to purchase on the usual online shops. Not only that, but it was cheap as fuck. It was $5. I said, the price is right. Purchase. I purchased it. It arrived in a matter of days to my apartment. And I thought about watching the movie, but I knew in a few weeks' time, it's going to be 420. And I feel like this will be a special event, watching this movie that I'd not seen since junior high at the latest on 420. So I waited for 420, which as of now was yesterday. And I put the DVD in, I started the movie up, and it was one of those situations where, again, it's been a long time since I saw it. This might have been a regret purchase. I might have had buyer's remorse upon rewatching this long unseen film. I'm glad to say I have zero remorse. In fact, I am so glad I got this movie. It is so fucking good. This is a cult classic. Emily described it as, I think we were maybe like a third of the way into the movie. And I said, well, what do you think? And she said, this is like a fever dream. And I said, I know, I'm loving it. And then by the end of the movie, I was just so happy. I was like, this did not let me down. As a matter of fact, this is like the perfect movie for when you're sick. If you're just home and you're sick, if you're just in bed and maybe under the weather, but really cozy, which I've got a weird, I don't know. I wouldn't describe it as weird. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way, but when you're sick and in bed, it's kind of nice. I kind of like it because your body, your immune system is so taxed that you don't have the excess energy to be fucking anxious like you usually are, you being me. When I'm ill, my body is so busy and taking up so much energy to ward off the illness that that usual energy that I would either need to expend by adventuring and or exercising a whole lot, because I've got a lot of energy naturally. And if I don't expend it physically somehow or by doing some kind of mental research, something fun, something interesting, something I'm curious about, that energy doesn't just disappear. Instead, it turns into rumination. It turns into the old adage. I think maybe it's Buddhist or something. Depression is to be stuck in the past is to be depressed. To be stuck in the future is to be anxious. So instead of having my mind ruminate on things past and judging myself perhaps unfairly, certainly unnecessarily, or worrying perhaps unnecessarily about the future, long story short, the Super Mario Brothers movie with John Leguizamo and not Dom DeLuise, some other guy. What the fuck is his name? Anyway, it's a really good movie. It's a really funny movie. And somehow, you may recognize some actors in it, one of whom was Dennis Hopper, played King Koopa. Dennis fucking Hopper is in it. And I've not looked this up, but I so guarantee that he modeled that character to a T after Donald Trump. And if you're on the younger end, or if you're a fucking dumbass who supports Trump, it's amazing how many old people have they never fucking heard of Trump before 2015, 2016? The guy has been in the public collective consciousness since the 80s. And he has been a fucking clown, a joke since the 80s. Everyone knew the guy was a fucking hack, a con man, a clown. Back in the 80s, especially in the 90s. Everyone always knew this. And then all of a sudden it's just, had these people never heard of it before? Whatever. That's not what this episode is about. I'm just going to say, Dennis Hopper plays a great Donald Trump in this movie. Yeah. Let's get on with the BBL. Yeah, baby, I'm getting a BBL. I tell you what, it's true. I'm getting a BBL. For those of you who don't know, that means a Brazilian butt lift. It is an elective plastic surgery procedure in which you enhance the contours of your shitter. Yeah, a BBL, baby. I'm actually not getting a BBL. I was fibbing. I'm not getting a BBL. However, they're not necessarily a new thing, but they've been part of collective talk over the past year. It's grown in more public consciousness. It's grown in the public consciousness. And at first, I didn't know what the fuck a BBL was. I knew what a butt lift was. I knew what butt implant was. That's what I always thought it was called. It's just a butt implant. But now it's called a BBL. And for the past few months, well, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, I encountered BBL, and I'm like, be back later? Because in my time, back when I was younger, back in the days of Zanga and LimeWire, BBL meant be back later. If you weren't going to BRB, you would BBL, TTFN, ta-ta for now, or TTYL, talk to you later. But no, BBL stands for Brazilian butt lift. However, I know that these, they're not usually not acronyms. They're initialisms. There's a difference between an acronym and an initialism, and I'm not going to explain it to you right now because I don't feel like it. But BBL, I know these things change over time. Like BBC, that means, well, I thought it meant big, bold, confident. Or BWC, best weather conditions. It turns out those two initialisms do not mean what I thought they meant. Interesting Google searches to do in a library, I tell you what. But a BBL, I thought it would be like a BBW. See, a BBW is a big, beautiful woman. Not to be confused with a POG. See, POG would be an acronym because you're not saying the letters themselves. You're forming the letters into a new word, a new sound. POG or PAWG, meaning fat, PH fat ass white girl, POG. Or there's POG, PAAG, fat ass Asian girl. Those are initialisms, POG, or those are acronyms, POG. But an initialism is something like BWC, BBC, not the British Broadcasting Corporation either. I made that mistake in the library as well. BBL, I thought, might have been like BBW. BBW being a big, beautiful woman. But a BBL, I thought it was like a big, beautiful Latina. But apparently, no, now BBL, and it did mean big, beautiful Latina, but now it means also Brazilian butt lift. And I just think that's fucking funny. BBL, Brazilian butt lift. It's a funny bunch of words to pair together. And so too did I find funny this piece of news that crossed my desk yesterday on 420. It so turns out, allegedly, that in Houston, a Houston woman's butt caught on fire. Yes, folks, her BBL combusted. I'm going to pull up what I found, the only thing I could find about it, in just a second. I need a drink of water. Be right back. BRB. All right, let's hear about this BBL catching on fire. So like I said, yesterday on 420, I heard about this. Emily told me about this. She asked me if I'd heard about it, and I said no. She said that apparently, well, allegedly, a Houston woman's butt, a Houston woman who had a BBL, caught on fire. And so I looked it up before this episode because I knew that's what I was going to do this episode about. And I had a difficult time finding anything about it. All I could find was one or two TikTok videos. And here's the main one. It's actually the one Emily saw. The reason she asked if I had heard about it. So I'm just going to play this on my phone, and I'm also going to hold the phone up to the camera. Maybe you'll see it. Hopefully it's not all covered in glare from the sunlight. And also, if you're able to watch this, that means you're on my YouTube channel. And if you are, please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames, because there's a whole bunch. There's a lot of good stuff for you people. Okay, there's a lot of good stuff for you people. More and more people are saying it. Everyone loves. I see. I can't do the Trump as well as Bernie. I do Bernie better. Anyway, come on, lock in, focus. Here's the video I'm talking about.
Did y'all hear about the Houston woman whose butt caught on fire when she was on the freeway? Apparently everyone who saw it was like, oh my gosh, there's a lady running down the freeway and her butt's in flames. Apparently what had happened is that she had a BBL, right? And the seat warmer in her car like misreacted with the chemicals from her BBL. And so then suddenly her butt's in flames, right? But she starts trying to sue the car company for damages, trying to create a lawsuit, right? But apparently there's more. Turns out that when she had gotten the car and she had gotten her BBL, she didn't like that the seat warmer wasn't hot enough. She couldn't feel it because there was, layers there going on. And so she went to this auto repair shop and she had them crank up the heat, okay, make things a little bit more spicy, if you will. And so then it was too hot, and that's why her bottom ended up in flames in the middle of Houston. Needless to say, she didn't get any of the damages. Dare I say, this is the most Miami story that I've ever heard. I'm actually a little bit shocked that it took place in Houston. She's gonna be sitting on a donut for a really long time. Did y'all hear about the Houston woman?
Okay, so apparently the reason that was the only news source for this story is because it's fake. It's a fake story. It's satire. Where the hell did that chick hear about this? Because that was in depth. So again, yeah, you just heard it. The story goes, and it's, as far as I can tell, a fake story. A woman had a BBL, and the chemicals in the BBL were set off by the intense heat of her car seat warmer, thus combusting the woman's BBL, the implant, catching her ass on fire, causing her to get out of her car on the freeway in Houston. And if you've ever been to Houston, it's not actually a city. It is merely a confusing, splattered spaghetti collection of freeways. That's Houston. It is a freeway upon a freeway. Actually, that's Dallas. Dallas has this, 10 stacked layers of freeways. Houston is just a sprawl, a flat, boring sprawl of freeways. But anyway, this is a fake fucking story. But, pun intended, I did find this. This is a article on Harper's Bazaar. Funny how, these periodicals change in their branding over time. Harper's Bazaar has been around for a long time, and it used to be a place where you'd find literature, like short stories and such. Now, however, it has articles like this one, written by Audrey Noble and Lindy Siegel, published September 23, 2022. Title: Just How Dangerous is a Brazilian Butt Lift? Experts break down the controversial and dangerous plastic surgery procedure. And then there's an image of a nice, svelte, smooth buttock with some peach fuzz on it. It's a little bit of, looks like they're cold too. Let's read. Goodness. Whew, I need some water. And we read: You can exercise your way to bigger, more chiseled glutes, but for those wanting immediate or more dramatic results, there's the option of a Brazilian butt lift, BBL. I imagine the Brazilian part is because there's a lot of plastic surgery in Brazil, which is so jarring to me because there's so many beautiful people there already, just naturally. It's become one of the most popular plastic surgeries, but it's also the deadliest. Even so, according to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, the BBL continues to increase in popularity. Using a combination of liposuction and fat grafting, a successful BBL results in added volume, defined curves, and a butt lift. Sound familiar? Many point to the popularity of influencers as one of the main sources of the procedure's steady rise. But there are serious concerns about whether this surgery should continue after reports surfaced that the death rate following a BBL may be a terrifying 1 in 3,000. Holy shit. Ahead, we speak with plastic surgeons Samuel Lin, Lara Devgan, David Schaefer, and Evan Garfien, and ask each one to walk us through the surgery itself as well as the controversy. But first, what is a BBL? A BBL starts with liposuction, where a surgeon sucks fat out of areas in the body, then processes and re-injects it into the buttocks and hips. The areas of planned liposuction, Schaefer says that fat is usually taken from the abdomen or lower back, and the outline of planned fat grafting are marked before surgery. Once the patient is positioned on the operating room table face down and under anesthesia, the liposuction is performed in the desired areas and the fat is collected in a specialized system that separates live fat cells from liposuction fluid. That fat is then injected into the marked areas of the butt. Schaefer says that surgeons will sometimes graft fat into the thighs or hips, depending on what shape the patient wants. The procedure requires a few very small incisions that are sutured closed at the end. The result? A rounder, fuller, perkier-looking derriere. The body transformation provided by the BBL may be a reason for the surgery's popularity, Lynn says, adding that many are open about their surgeries as well. Quote, the procedure's visibility on social media and in popular culture may also contribute to its growing popularity, unquote. So why is it called a Brazilian butt lift? Plastic surgery as a practice has many roots in Brazil, and Brazilian plastic surgeon Ivo Pitangi, I don't know how to pronounce that, is largely credited with creating the procedure. That said, the BBL as we know it has evolved quite a bit over the last several decades. How much does a BBL cost? Devgan says that the cost of a BBL can vary depending on the provider performing the surgery and where you live, but typically one lift can range anywhere from $3,000 to $30,000, not $13,000, $30,000. $3,000 to $30,000. If that range seems wide, it's because many people go to quote-unquote chop shops. Yes, that's actually what they're called. That do these surgeries at a high frequency with, more than likely, less expertise. Quote, to ensure that they are going to a reputable surgeon, patients can look at the surgeon's board certification, Lynn advises. Board certification by the American Board of Plastic Surgery is a sign that the surgeon has undergone extensive training and continued maintenance of certification in plastic and reconstructive surgery, which includes cosmetic surgery, unquote. Lynn also notes that the location of the doctor and surgery is just as important to consider. Quote, a reputable surgeon will perform surgery at a certified surgery center with a board-certified anesthesiologist or at a hospital, unquote, he says. And be wary of the lure of going outside of the United States just because it can be done at a lesser price. Quote, the prices may seem tempting, but there are associated costs such as travel, lodging, return flights, and also follow-up care, he says. Additionally, countries offering bargain plastic surgery do not have the stringent ethical and patient safety requirement that are followed by board-certified plastic surgeons, unquote. Okay, so who is a candidate for a BBL? Why, I am. Okay, but let's see what the article actually says. That joke felt flat to me. If you laughed, then I take that. But I'm talking to myself in a room by myself. Scratch that. Edit that part. Who is a candidate for a BBL? Schaefer says that some patients don't have enough excess body fat for a BBL. Oh, so I couldn't. I have no body fat. Curvy patients have fat available for harvesting through liposuction and enhancing their buttocks and thighs to fit their body type, he says. Devgan recommends patients be healthy adults within 15 pounds of their goal weight. Before surgery, you'll also need to have medical clearance from your general practitioner. Schaefer explains that doctors will make sure that you're healthy for surgery and screen for risk factors associated with surgical complications, such as blood clotting disorders and any cardiovascular issues. What is BBL recovery like? Schaefer says that recovery happens in 3 stages: first few days, first several weeks, and first several months. During the first few days, you can generally go back to work. I don't imagine you'd want to be sitting. I feel like you'd be in a lot of pain. During the first several weeks, most of the swelling reduces and the bruising starts to heal. This is when you can go back to the gym and are approved for travel. The last stage is where any remaining swelling will resolve and the transferred fat has pretty much settled. Devgan says that you'll want to avoid pressure on areas where there is grafted fat and also avoid strenuous exercises for several weeks. So you can't sit. You can't sit. That sounds awful. If you're a back or side sleeper, this means you'll need to sleep on your stomach. Oh, God. And then how do you control where you move while you're asleep? How long does a BBL last? Expectations need to be managed. The results are only semi-permanent. Schaefer and Devgan note that only up to 80% of the grafted fat survives, so many patients may need to revise some aspect of the surgery in the future. Quote, in most cases, 70 to 80% of the grafted fat survives, while some of it absorbs, Schaefer says. The length of time a BBL lasts is dependent on the percentage of injected fat that engrafts, explains Garfien. If 100% of a liter of injected fat survives, the patient will have an extra liter of fat in her buttocks. If 50% survives, she will have 500 cc. In addition, those fat cells act like any others in the body. Once the fat engrafts, the patient should have those cells there forever. If she gains weight, those surviving cells will accumulate more fat and get bigger. If she loses weight, those surviving fat cells will shrink and get smaller, explains Garfien. And here's what I want to know. So why is the BBL so dangerous? Frankly, patients are dying on the table from botched procedures. Quote, in the case of BBLs, fat is usually injected into the space between the skin and muscles. This is called the subcutaneous space. But occasionally it is injected into the muscles, explains Garfien. Part of the risk associated with this procedure is that there are very large blood vessels in the buttock muscles. If fat is inadvertently injected into one of these vessels, it can travel to the heart and lungs, resulting in death. Ooh. This results in cardiopulmonary collapse, which is oftentimes not reversible or treatable. Studies show that from 2011 to 2016, there were 25 Brazilian butt lift related deaths. God. In 2017, a plastic surgery task force reported that 3% of plastic surgeons who performed the procedure had a patient die. Although some surveys estimate that the rate has gone down, it's still important to be aware of the danger. Quote, the mortality rate from BBL is estimated to be as high as 1 in 3,000. This is greater than any other cosmetic surgery, Lynn says. Any patient considering BBL should be informed of the risk of death from this procedure, unquote. From some surgeons, the high risk rules the procedure out completely. Quote, this is a level of risk that is extremely alarming and totally unacceptable for an elective cosmetic procedure, Devgan says. That risk of death is a statistic that factors in the outcome of highly trained American board-certified plastic surgeons. So this is not just an issue of who is doing the surgery. It is a risk inherent in the operation, unquote. The experts again stress the importance of doing your research to find a highly qualified surgeon. Quote, there are risks involved with the injection of the fat, and this is where training and experience are so important, Schaefer says. If the fat is injected too deep or in the wrong area, the fat can enter the bloodstream and cause issues such as pulmonary embolus or clotting, unquote. So is the BBL worth it? Devgan and Schaefer differ on whether this procedure is something anyone should try at all. This is my litmus test, my personal golden rule of plastic surgery. If you wouldn't let your mother or sister or brother have the procedure, you shouldn't let your patients either, Devgan says. The Brazilian butt lift is an operation that I do not perform any longer because the mortality data speaks for itself. The risk-benefit calculus simply does not add up. Schaefer, on the other hand, thinks it's safe to do for the right patient. That is why it is essential to have a thorough consultation with a board-certified plastic surgeon to review your options, he says. Can a BBL be reversed? There has been a lot of commotion on social media about certain influencers and celebrities and whether or not they have had BBL reductions. But is that even possible? BBLs can be, quote-unquote, reversed by reversing the process by which it was performed, namely by liposuction, explains Garfien. And as previously mentioned, the fat added can also shrink if the patient loses weight. So is there a safer BBL option? See, I always thought it was like old school breast implants where there would be liposuction and then they put in whatever shape of saline sac in your butt cheek. And how do you keep that from drifting? I don't know. Good Lord, could you imagine the ass saline sac drifting from your left butt cheek down to the back of your thigh or even your knee? And then you bend down to tie your shoe and it bursts open and the saline's in your skin and then you fucking die. I'm not sure it's worth it. I don't know if you can hear that slurping, but that's the dog drinking his water. Okay, yeah, this article's almost done. Let's wait for the dog to finish drinking. Okay, now we're at the end of the article and then the end of this episode. So, is there a safer BBL alternative? A Brazilian butt lift isn't the only option for a perkier bum. Schaefer says that one alternative to consider is Sculptra Aesthetic, an injectable that helps boost your body's natural collagen. He says that although it is FDA approved for increasing volume in the face, it can also be used off-label to add volume to other parts of the body. He does warn that this treatment can be cost prohibitive as many Sculptra, let's restart that sentence. He does warn that this treatment can be cost prohibitive. Many vials of Sculptra costing upward of $20,000 are required to gain a noticeable result in the butt. He recommends this route to anyone who can afford it and anyone who wants to avoid invasive surgery. Devgan says that she frequently injects poly-L-lactic acid, the main ingredient in Sculptra, into the butt to improve contour, shape, texture, and cellulite. Lynn adds that liposuction alone can achieve some of the results people may be hoping for. Quote, liposuction of the back, flanks, and or thighs without fat grafting to the buttocks can enhance the appearance of the lower torso and the buttocks by balancing the proportions of the buttocks to the rest of the body rather than increasing the size of the buttocks, he explains. So it's kind of like how a person with a wiener, they may have an average size, but they may appear to have bigger ones if the person as a whole is kind of thin, kind of skinny. You know, it's one of those stereotype kind of a things. It's one of those stereotypes that's not necessarily a stereotype. It's a little true. You know, skinny dudes can and do have, you know, your BB or WCs. Anyway, for something completely non-invasive, you can also consider Velva Shape 3, M-Sculpt, and Cool Sculpting. Velshape 3 uses radio frequency technology to boost collagen production and reduce the appearance of cellulite. M-Sculpt stimulates the muscles deep in your abdomen or glutes and causes massive contractions. So it's basically electro-contraction for your, the thing you put on your stomach to get a six-pack where it just, gives low electric impulses causing the muscles to contract instead of, you actually getting off your ass if you're able to and working out. Cool sculpting freezes and therefore kills the fat cells in the areas under your butt, which can help make the area appear perkier. However, all non-invasive procedures still carry their own sets of risks. So, no matter which route you take, make sure to do your research before committing to the journey. That's all for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you stick around because I found some BBL related posts on Reddit. Someone is wondering if they're an asshole for abandoning their sister after helping her get a BBL. You can get that on patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. So I hope to see you there. And if not, I'll catch you next time, hopefully. Bye.